Hey guys, Chris with Tillman Family Farms. If you are still with us on our Learning to Homestead series, this may be the video that you've been waiting for. I do want to put out a short disclaimer. From this point on, I am not responsible for any of your financial decisions when it comes to livestock. So if you haven't figured it out yet, today we're going to be talking about the gateway to livestock on a homestead. And when I say gateway, I really mean the gateway drug to livestock on a homestead. Yes, the chicken. And let me warn you, buying chickens and raising chickens leads to all kinds of craziness, right? You're going to have chickens for eggs, chickens for pets, chickens for colors, chickens for colored eggs, chickens for brown eggs, chickens for white eggs, and all sorts of other crazy stuff, right? You may even get to the point to where you're looking for broilers for meat on your homestead. So when I tell you and give you all of these warnings, it's probably even going to lead to chicken math. Look that up. You'll figure it out real quick. Anyhow, it leads to all sorts of crazy things, but the chicken is the quintessential livestock animal for a farm. And today we're going to talk about all the benefits, all the things that they can do for you, and all the things that you can get from them, and probably a lot of the ways to get started. And I'm going to leave a link to a video that I did a while back on how to get started with a backyard chicken flock. So that'll be down in the description below. So check that out because it's got a ton of great information on how to get started. All right, so you asked the question, why chickens? Well, so chickens are easy to raise. Chickens are small. They don't take up a whole lot of space. And it is a very, very good place to start as far as learning how to care for them and all that stuff. Whether you buy full-grown chickens or if you decide to start at the very beginning and buy chicks and learn the whole entire process, which I don't recommend to do right off the bat, okay? It's a long process, and depending on what you want them for, it could be a painstaking process when you are waiting on a chicken to lay its first egg. So you get any range between 16 weeks to probably 21 weeks from chick to egg laying bird. So that process, you can lose track of that time very quickly, and it can become very frustrating waiting on that first egg. One of the first things that I recommend to you is to sit back and think, why do I want chickens? Okay, so there's tons of benefits to chickens, and I'll go over a few of them real quick. So you can obviously buy broilers and raise broilers for meat. You can have egg birds, which would be nothing but to provide you eggs. But you can also use those birds for other things, okay? If you have a system through bedding or something else to collect their manure, you can add that to compost piles for fertilizer and things like that. Or if you have a yard or if you have a pasture or anything like that, you can set up netting like we have behind us, and you can move those birds across it, and those birds will do a multitude of things, okay? If you have other livestock, when you get that far down the road, they'll help clean up the manure. They'll probably get about 20% of their intake, their food, from foraging, whether it be bugs, grass, whatever. And also they will be dropping their manure along the way as they thatch the ground and help that soil and help the grass grow and help all kinds of stuff. So it's kind of a natural fertilization process. We talked about eggs. Other than that, they're really, really just fun to watch. I mean, I remember 20 years ago when we first got chickens, I would literally just take a chair out there to the little pinned in area and just watch these jokers peck around, the way they move their head and all kinds of stuff. They're just a fun animal to be around and to have. So yes, they make good pets as well. So you can form a relationship with them. They will come to you. I don't know if you're going to teach them to sit or roll over or anything like that, but they are good pets. So those are just some of the things to think about as why you want chickens and what do you want them for, because that's going to tell you a lot about the breed that you want to look for. All right, breeds of birds. We're going to break it down into a couple of really simple categories, okay? So you're going to have egg birds, you're going to have meat birds, and then you're going to have dual purpose birds, okay? So egg birds, there's a whole different range from heritage breeds to hybrid breeds and all kinds of stuff. You can get birds that will lay up to 300 eggs a year in the right conditions. Now, don't think they're just going to pump them out. We'll get to that. And then you can buy birds that might only lay 150 eggs a year. Then you can buy a broiler. So there's a couple of different kinds of broilers these days. So you still got the old Cornish cross, and then you got Jackies and a couple of other that are a little bit different type of birds. Some of those take a little bit longer to grow out, to where the Cornish cross is anywhere from 8 to 10 weeks roughly. And then you have a dual purpose bird. Now, what a dual purpose bird is good for on a homestead is that you can eventually, once you learn and once you get to that point, you can recreate this bird on your property without any help, right? So you can either incubate the eggs or you can let the hens do the job for you. And a dual purpose bird has a body structure with enough meat on it to be a meat bird, but they're also good producers of eggs, okay? So they're gonna lay you a lot of eggs, and then if you don't have the capacity to raise 100 broilers and process them and put them in your freezer, then you'll have these dual purpose birds moving around, and maybe on a Saturday you'll grab 2 of them and you'll process them, and then you'll have meat for the week. So a lot of different things to think about when it comes to chickens. Or you can just pick the old fluffy bird up and love on them. That's all you got to do. You can have these things in your backyard in a neighborhood or whatever. Roosters are the ones you want to try to stay away from if you're in town and in a neighborhood, but you can have some hens in a lot of those cases. Check your local laws. A lot of people in town have hens in their backyard for eggs, okay? You can go way back in history, and the government used to recommend for you to keep a couple of hens for eggs and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, that's the difference in a lot of what you're gonna find. I would recommend studying. I'll probably find a chart on egg-laying birds, and I'll probably splash that in here somewhere just so you can kind of take a look at it. You just have to pause and read it. It's easy to find on Google too. You can probably do that easy. So I'm serious when I tell you not to start with chicks, okay? It seems nice and simple. Your local Tractor Supply starts announcing that they got chick days going on. You go in there and there's these big tubs and they got all these birds running around there, and they got all this stuff that's gonna help you get through it. Yes, they do. But I have watched, oh gosh, 8 or 10 different families start off with chicks, and it just didn't turn out good for many different reasons. One thing that I want for you to remember in this is that sometimes chickens just die for no reason. So I want you as a homesteader to prepare yourself for things like that now. For some reason, chickens, turkeys, and goats have a tendency to look for ways to get themselves into a situation that's just not good for them, or sometimes you just come out and there they lay. That's not to say that that is because of you and your care or anything along those lines. Sometimes it just happens, just like humans. Just, you walk up and find somebody dead. We won't talk about that no more. Anyway, so prepare yourself for stuff like that, but don't start with chicks. Go out and find somebody that's selling 10-week-old birds that are grown to a certain age and things like that, so that you can get them and just move forward from there. So I am going to put in some footage that I took last week of our hatching process. I'm gonna slide that in here right now. I knew we weren't gonna have birds hatching and in the incubator now, so I went ahead and took some video footage of that. So I'll slide that in right here. When you become successful at hatching, even with a small setup like this, so these are the ones that are still, there's a new one in there. So there's still a few in here that are doing all right, that we're waiting on. But this has been such a successful hatch this time. She had 22 that hatched out of this group. So that makes about 60 so far this spring. And then I think after that, she's probably just gonna keep on hatching. And that'll be our next little homesteading hack. So she'll sell runs of chicks to anybody that's looking to get into them. So the funny story, so I was on social media, and we have a farmers group within our county. Actually, I think this is on a chat group in our county. So a bunch of neighborhoods popping up out here everywhere. The country's going away really fast. But everybody's moving out here thinking that they're moving into the country, so they want chickens and they want goats, they want all kinds of stuff. So this guy was asking, actually he did an anonymous post. Ooh. He was asking if his neighbor's chickens were on his property and scratching and messing up his flower beds, and they happened to lay eggs, could he keep those eggs? Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, in my opinion, yes, keep those eggs. That's your payment for them tearing up your flower beds. But all the while, I was sitting there thinking to myself, do I have neighbors? Are my chickens in somebody else's yard? So make sure that if you have chickens in the city or in a neighborhood or something like that, that you can contain them somehow, but you got to keep them happy. Let's go look at these birds and I'll talk to you about that. All right, this is our trampoline chicken coop. You can go back, I don't know, 5 years or so and see the build on this thing. But this is a trampoline. I cut the things in half, stood them up, put tin over it, put some connecting stuff between it, put a door on it. There's nothing in it right now but some rabbits. So we got some rabbits on that side. But we use this as a brooder, okay? So when we do big batches of broilers, we'll have this whole entire floor covered. We'll have heat lamps hanging from the ceiling, and this whole entire area will be covered, and they'll stay in here till they're about 3 weeks old. So this is one spot. You could do something like this. You could even do cages along the side until they get to a certain age. So that's one way that you can do it. You can also use this. So we had done nesting boxes in here at one time, and we just had a run out on the front of this, and we use this as our coop, you know, completely. I mean, the birds, we had about, I don't know, 50 birds that lived in this, and they had a big run out in front of it. So this is one way that you could do it. All right, so this is what I call a range coop. We normally use this for broilers when they're growing. It's on skids, as you can see right there, and those skids allow me to use this fancy cable right here to hook it on the ball of the Kawasaki, and I can pull it along, okay? But there'll also be a link in the description down below to this thing. We got this off of Amazon, and then I just kind of added some things to it, but it comes with the wire, the door, and all kinds of stuff, and it is advertised as a chicken coop. These are the oldest birds that we hatched this year. So these guys, and you can see some of them's combs they're not fully developed. They're still a little bit smaller birds. Had a couple roosters in this run, which you're gonna get if you hatch eggs, so just buckle up. Roosters, yeah, they're fun, I guess. But anyhow, that is, oh God, I'm trying to figure out how old those are. I'd have to ask Jamie, but anyhow, this is one stage. So we're gonna go over here and take a look at another stage. All right, so this is another type of chicken tractor. It's very similar to the range coop that I just showed you, but this one you can actually put wheels on it. I got a little axle right there on all four corners, and you can be able to move it around. So these guys are a little bit bigger, but you can see they're not quite, and they are curious as they can be, but they're a little skittish. But anyhow, this was another group that was hatched. This was in between that first group and then the next group that I'm going to show you. But you can see we do all barnyard mixes. I say that, I think she's got some separated out that are pure now, but anyhow, this is another stage. So once they get to a certain size, you can get them outside and they'll be fine. Water and then food hanging back there. I dare not open this door. These are all little guys, and I'll have little guys everywhere if I open the door. So anyhow, these guys have not long been moved out from the chicks that you saw a little while ago, but this is how we replace our egg-laying flock, okay? So we raise these guys up to a certain size, certain age. We thin out the roosters, we sell them, give them away, all kinds of stuff. But this is how we replenish our flock. So same thing in this situation, right? So you got a big thing of water and then a big feeder back there. I'll show you some other feeders that you would use for a smaller setup of birds. And there's tons of feeders out there. You can get them online, you can get them at Tractor Supply. Stark line netting that we deal with, they're about to start selling waterers and feeders and nesting boxes and all kinds of stuff. So I'll leave a link in the description down below. And if you use our discount code Tillman Family at checkout, you'll get 10% off. All right, we got in here to hide from the sun a little bit. So talk about these feeders and waters and things like that. So This is a feeder, so if you're going to do chicks or even buy them where they're 4 or 5 weeks old, they're past the chick stage. This is a feeder, so you can screw on a mason jar on top of that. You'll fill the mason jar up, screw this on the top, flip it over, feeder. Water kind of works the same way. This one's already got a mason jar on it, but you'll fill the mason jar up, screw the thing on it, flip it over. So those are for small bird setups. When you get into a little bit bigger bird setup, so this is a feeder. See how it's got the slots? It's just gravity fed. You'll fill it up with feed that way. They make waters about this size. I don't have one right here that's not deployed to show you. You saw some in with those chicken tractors a little bit ago. And then, of course, when you get into big ones, so this one is 5 gallons. When we have big groups of birds, we'll use these a lot. And then if you end up with really big sets of birds, eventually I'll show y'all a big gravity feed setup with a float in it and all that stuff. So you can put several hundred gallons of water in it, and the float valve works the flow of water so that it doesn't overflow and all that stuff. And they can have water for multiple days. So the last thing that I want to talk to you about is keeping your birds safe. Okay, so birds have a multitude of different enemies in the world. Okay, so there's flying predators. So you got hawks, eagles, osprey, owls. There's all sorts of stuff. There's some old wives' tales that if you keep black chickens, that you can keep the hawks out of them because they'll think it's a crow. It seems to work, so I can't knock it. We do it. There's a lot of different things. So keeping them in a coop, that's fenced in, that can help you from raccoons, possums, fox, coyotes. Excuse me. And then dogs. I mean, your neighbor's dog. If he is a hunting breed dog, labs, spaniels, any of, well, maybe not college, but any of those hunting breed dogs, they have a natural tendency to chase something that's running from them. And if they catch it, chickens are so fragile, their skin is so fragile that they can injure a bird pretty bad. So be minded on how you're going to protect your birds. Okay, so there's a couple of things that you can do to keep your birds from flying. Just say you have a fenced in backyard in a neighborhood and you have a privacy fence. You got a 6 or 8 foot privacy fence up. You can take all of your birds and you can cut their flight feathers with a pair of scissors. This does not hurt the bird. You just have to pay attention to where you're cutting. When you spread a bird's wings out, there'll be 2 layers of feathers. Okay, that longest layer of feathers, you want to take scissors and you want to cut back to the second layer. You don't want to cut the second layer, you want to cut all the way back to the first layer. So you got 1 layer coming off the body and the wing, and then you got a longer layer that's the flight feathers. Cut the long flight feathers off and they won't be able to fly up and get on the fence, get in your neighbor's yard and lay eggs for your neighbor. So if you are in a bigger setting like we are, we use electric poultry netting. It seems to work really good with us with a combination of the blackbirds added in and then the poultry netting. You can find poultry netting all over the place. Like I was talking about the company earlier, Starkline. Starkline Netting is a company that we became dependent on there for a while because one of the other major suppliers back in the day when we first started buying this stuff, you could never get it. They never had it in stock, and we stumbled upon Starkline, and man, they have really taken care of us. They actually do have a spring sale right now too. You can save 20% on a lot of different items. They have some starter kits that have solar electric chargers and the netting and all of the stuff that you would need to set it up. But you could save 20% on that and then stick our discount code in there, which is Tillman Family, all one word, and you get another 10%. So that's 30% off. That's a pretty big deal to add that in there. But that is something that you can do a small setup. And then I would encourage you to go look at a Justin Rhodes video on his chick saw, which is a mobile chicken coop. It's kind of like a chicken coop wheelbarrow type deal. It's pretty cool. But you can easily move it around. One person can move it around. It won't be a big one like we've got out here. and you can have, just say, 100 feet of netting from stark line and hook it all up, and you can move that around your yard, you can move it around your pasture, you can move it around your barnyard, whatever. And the electrified fencing will keep all of your critters out, you know, your foxes and raccoons and coyotes and all that stuff. And then add a few blackbirds in there. Maybe that works, maybe it doesn't, but it seems to have worked for us. Over the years, we've had some owls get into birds, and we probably have had a hawk or two, but it's not prevalent. Like we don't have it all the time. I hear a lot of people saying, oh my gosh, what do I do? What do I do? And then you get people out there trying to shoot hawks and shoot all these different things. It's just like, you know, you need to come up with a preventative measure so that you don't have to go to that extreme. So pay attention as to how you're going to take care of your birds and protect them. Some people do big long chicken runs that have a top on them and have all this stuff on them, but those things, you have to clean them out all the time. Then you have to have a place for that compost, or get rid of it. So that can get very bad, and it can also get really, really stinky. So in my opinion, that's not the best way to do it, but if that's all you can do, it's better to do that than to not do anything. So just know that it's going to take you a little bit more work. So I am going to put in some video footage of eggs so that you'll see what kind of eggs you could possibly be getting out of this deal, and then we'll probably talk about one or two other things, and then we'll get out of here. I know this one's running a little long for you guys, but this is a good one. All right, so that's about 5 dozen. That's probably about a day's worth of eggs that we get. Of course, we sell eggs as part of a farm business, but you can see all the different colors. Jamie's actually keeping out some of the blues and greens and things like that because she's hatching them, because those birds are a little bit more sought after, but we normally have those sprinkled in here too. But that's the type of stuff that you can expect if you do your own birds in your backyard. All right, so maybe now you've convinced yourself that you do want to dive into livestock on your homestead, and chickens is the way to go. I do highly recommend you go back and watch that video that I was talking about earlier. There's a ton of great information in there on how to get started with the backyard chicken flock. It'll be down in the description, and I'll see if I can't do one of those fancy little boxes right here at the end. So with that being said, you know, look for birds in social media groups. You can go to auctions, but I caution people going to auctions if you've never been. If you've never been, go to an auction 3, 4, 5 times and watch. Talk to the people that are there. You can get a lot of great information just from talking to people, and try to talk to people that are buying, not selling. The ones that are selling, they'll feed you a bunch of crap and maybe, you know, some lies about what they're selling. So anyhow, that's a lot of good stuff for that. Chickens is definitely the way to go. They're a lot of fun. Keep them safe, keep them happy. Clean areas makes chickens happy. Last little tip is keep some light for them throughout the winter time if you want to keep them laying. Chickens need 13 hours of light a day to keep laying eggs. So just remember a couple of those things, and now is your opportunity to dive in head first and study on birds before you go out and buy them. And then once you buy them, you'll understand what I mean by chicken math. I appreciate you guys watching. If you don't mind, please go down and like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you'll see all the videos we put out, and we will see you on the next video.